It's easy to get caught up in this idea of a contest, right? Human versus AI. But the truth is, the most critical decisions happening right now, we're talking finance, defense, logistics, they're not being made by one or the other. They're actually made by these really complex, interconnected hybrid systems. And those are the systems we really need to get our heads around.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll lay out the core thesis behind these hybrid systems. Then, we're going to move past that simple human versus AI story. We'll dig into why pure systems, on their own, just don't work. After that, we'll look at what an effective hybrid architecture actually looks like. And finally, we'll see how this all completely changes the game for accountability. All right, let's start with the big idea. Hybrid systems aren't some kind of second-best compromise. They're the default for critical operations because they're a smarter design. They are purpose-built to solve a fundamental tension in any modern operation, to create a balance that you just can't get from pure automation or pure human judgment alone.
And this quote really hits the nail on the head. Here's the core problem. Pure automation is brittle. It's great at following rules, but it has no idea what to do with ambiguity or when values shift. It just breaks. On the flip side, pure human judgment is flexible, but it just can't keep up. The speed and sheer volume of information today is overwhelming, so neither one is the complete answer.
This is why hybrid systems are so dominant. They're designed specifically to perform this balancing act between three things that are often in conflict. You need the incredible speed of automation to handle all that data. You absolutely need the nuanced judgment of a human to deal with complexity and weird exceptions. And, crucially, you have to have a clear line of accountability when things go wrong. A hybrid architecture is the framework that's built to keep these three forces in balance.
Okay, so let's tackle a really common misconception. We're all used to hearing this story that pits humans against AI, but that whole frame of reference completely misses how these powerful systems actually work in the real world.
That humans versus AI narrative, it's a massive oversimplification. It frames everything as a fight for jobs or control, but the reality is much more about collaboration. The best performance doesn't come from one side winning out. It actually emerges from a really well-designed, layered coordination. Decisions aren't just these single moments in time. They're distributed across the system, with some parts handled by machines and other parts handled by people.
So, to really understand why this hybrid approach is so powerful, we have to get into the weeds a bit on why the other options fail. Let's look at the specific breaking points for each one when it's left on its own.
So, think about full automation. It's amazingly efficient as long as conditions are stable and predictable. The problem is it's designed to optimize for very narrow goals. The second it faces something it wasn't programmed for, a weird environmental shift, a conflict in values, it just doesn't know what to do. And because it operates at scale, one tiny error can instantly spread through the whole system and cause a massive cascading failure.
Now, on the other hand, what about a system that's just people? Well, it has its own very different scaling problem. An expert might make a brilliant call on one tricky situation, but can they make 10,000 brilliant calls in an hour? Of course not. The cognitive load just gets to be too much. Consistency goes out the window, biases start to creep in, and trying to coordinate with everyone else just falls apart. Human judgment is amazing, but it just doesn't scale.
So if pure automation has critical flaws, and pure human systems have critical flaws, what's the solution? Well, this is where the design comes in. The answer lies in a hybrid architecture that's built from the ground up to leverage the unique strengths of both. And here's the core logic of how that works. It's all about a structural division of labor. You give the AI the jobs it's best at, plowing through mountains of data, detecting anomalies, finding patterns. This frees up the human operators to focus on what they're best at, applying context, handling the one-off exceptions, and making those tough value trade-offs that an algorithm simply can't.
And this is a really critical point to understand. The AI here isn't just some helpful advisor giving suggestions. It's an integrated, fundamental part of the decision-making structure. It literally shapes the information and the options that are available. It's a true partnership, one that's defined by the process itself.
Okay, so if you build a system with this kind of deep structural integration, it has some really profound consequences, especially when it comes to what happens when things go wrong. This forces a total rethink of how we handle authority, responsibility, and ultimately, who gets the blame.
And the thing is, these systems tend to fail in very specific, predictable ways. Failure happens when the boundaries between the human and AI roles get blurry. It happens when humans start to overtrust the machine's output. That's called automation bias. And it happens when the system is designed so that accountability and authority don't line up.
The key here is that these aren't just user errors. They are fundamental flaws in the design of the system itself. So in a well-designed system, what you have is distributed authority. The AI has the authority to process the data and frame the available options. But, and this is key, the human operator retains the ultimate authority to legitimize the final decision. They're the ones who give the final sign-off. They are the ones who are accountable for turning an automated suggestion into an authorized action. And this brings us to the most critical takeaway. The biggest challenge in this field is no longer just a technical one about building a better algorithm. The real work, the hard work, is strategic. It's about designing the governance around the tech, defining roles, aligning authority with accountability, and building systems that are designed from the start to fail safely. That is the real future of decision-making.
This channel explains money, artificial intelligence, and decision-making as interconnected systems. No hype, no gurus, no personal branding. New videos weekly.